Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for utilizing this experimental format for us. As we have said before, we really look forward to your input on how you guys liked it and enjoyed it. So be sure to start compiling what you liked and what you would like to see altered so we can adapt accordingly. So I'll go ahead and turn things over to Sandy.
Thank you very much. I put up our ground rules that we started with at our first week 1 session, and the main thing here is that if you do have a microphone, and we would love to hear your voice. It just adds to the learning experience, and it definitely adds to our recording because the recording does not capture the chat, which has been quite rich over the last 2 weeks. And one of the last things I'm going to ask you to do is to share by microphone chat what you plan to apply that you've learned over the last 3 weeks together over looking forward. So be thinking about that and be prepared to put that in chat or to voice over, real voice. So I'm going to pass our floor on to our Lawrence, who's up in Vermont watching the beautiful colors, I'm assuming. She has been bragging about that. And I'll let you take it over, Lawrence.
Sure. I guess I can't brag about the Vermont colors. I can only feel incredibly fortunate that I'm here looking at them. But I know some of you are looking at very beautiful places as well. Hi, everybody. I see we're kind of a smallish group so far this morning, which in some ways at least will encourage perhaps more conversation, which I would appreciate. We have done a lightning fast review of marketing principles. We sort of skimmed all the mountaintops, to use a Vermont phrase. Everything from planning, the planning cycle, setting objectives, figuring out what you're going to measure as indicators through picking your important priority target audiences and how the message should work for them. And then we've talked about a zillion different kinds of delivery systems, ways to deliver the message from the library to the audience. We did a little quick talk about print and social media, various digital forms. And this time there was a focus on, I focused hard on word of mouth marketing because I believe that a systematic approach to word of mouth is probably one of the best tools we have as libraries to step up our marketing efforts and help people know more about us. So all that quickly said, I know we've covered a huge amount of material briefly in a short period of time. And we will ask you in a little bit about how we might have done that better. But for right now, I would like to get input from all of you, some reaction to the conversations about word of mouth marketing. How are you using it now? And how might you, going forward, do it more systematically or more consciously? You can either talk or type. We're not
Pam, go
very
ahead.
mouthy this week.
Looks like Pam got
okay.
Okay, I think I'm good here. A lot of the stuff that you talked about previously, we've been doing quite a bit for a small library. We've been real excited about, already have done that, so that's great. One that was in the videos this week was the library ambassadors, and I'm running through ideas in my head of ways to promote that because we have a lot of champions. We have a lot of clients, and so I think I can make clients into champions. So, but that was exciting for me, and I'm going to bring that up with my coworkers on how we can do library ambassadors more than we do maybe a button or something like that. But that was a neat idea, and I am trying to rebrand our materials that we send out with this style sheets was something I never even thought about. So that was a really good idea too.
That's very helpful to know what you might do that's that you hadn't thought of. And I'm glad to hear you were already doing a lot of these things. The ambassador issue is important. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that, or have you, did the videos help you think about it, or had you already been doing that? How to harness that core of supporters and increase their effectiveness?
And Nancy, you did have your hand up. We would love to hear you talk out loud, but I see that you've typed into chat. And Josephine's... Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, I was just going to say I saw Josephine's comment, and I was thinking along the same lines that we've been trying to offer a variety of programs, and those have attracted parts of the community that we had not seen as regular patrons, and so that's helped spread what we're doing, and they tell their friends and help spread the message.
Thanks, Nancy. And Josephine's comment, just for those of you that will be listening to the recording later, is we have loyal patrons who come up to a lot of programs. They love what we do and in turn drag their families and neighbors to other programs.
Do you do anything at your programs, a standard announcement saying, if you have enjoyed this, be sure to tell your friends, or next time bring a friend, or some appropriate way of inviting word of mouth?
This is Nancy again. We often mention, that in addition to this program, we've got such and such coming up, and we hope that you'll come back and bring someone with you.
Great.
And Linda's made a comment that she plans to include 1, more focused marketing, and 2, create an ambassador corps.
Anything else on word of mouth? Has anybody used word of mouth in communities of the prospects, not the suspects, but the people who would use it if they knew more about you? You've been out in the community to meetings or anything to try and tell people one by one what's going on in the library?
Yes, we just did that with the Martin County Library System. We met with the school district, the Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and some Community Foundation donors at a summer reading and after school quarterly meeting, and we were able to go around the room. Each organization was able to talk about some of their services and programs, and we were able to let those organizations know that we had a tutor.com service that they could benefit from at their after-school program. And so since that meeting, we've had Parks and Rec and Boys and Girls Club ask for us to go to their site to set tutor.com up for them, and in addition, sign them up for library cards to use the service.
That sounds like really smart marketing, identifying partners who are interested in your target audience, which I take it is teenagers in the summer maybe, and going to them, and then going back to walk them through the setup situation. Good model. And I imagine you'll have friends for a long time in those organizations for other things as they arise.
Yeah, we hope so.
Elizabeth says that they have TV screens that scroll ads to their classes inside the library, and their regular patrons stay informed that way. And Josephine says that they do not as often as they should. They give out comment cards and use patrons' feedback. Today at our next program, I'll mention bringing it to other programs.
And I see that Elizabeth hand delivers flyers, and Elizabeth, it sounds like you also engage the people at those places in conversation about, here's a flyer and look at what we've got. Every time you deliver a stack of flyers to an appropriate place is a chance to chat with whoever is there, from the receptionist in the doctor's office to the person at the school, wherever it is you're going. Is any, so you have a formal, Nancy has a formal way of getting out and speaking to civic organizations and then sharing flyers, and the local health fair, all good. Nancy, which civic organizations do you speak to?
We go to the Lions Club, Kiwanis. We've just formed a partnership with the Junior Service League and Rotary.
Good, all good. Does anyone else make a concerted effort like that to speak with existing organizations? It can be a very effective method to market the library services and delight people with surprises about all that you have.
And Nancy is in Gulf County up here in the Panhandle as a rural county. And actually years and years ago I did speak with the Kiwanis Club. Too far back to say. In Gulf County.
I bet they remember you.
Right.
Yeah, 100 years ago I worked in the Sarasota County library system, and I was invited to speak at the local Masons annual dinner. And my only knowledge of Masons was from American history books, and that it was a sort of secret, arcane, odd, interesting organization. So I studied up before I went, which was useful. That was quite a challenging talk. It was rather fun.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, youth services person, Pam says, goes to schools and other meetings, and the directory is a Rotary member, which means that he or she is out there. Don't they have to go every week or to hit a certain number of meetings in a month? That's important. Yeah, that's a frequent hit and a very good thing to do. Some librarians find it challenging in terms of time, but it's a worthy way to get the library word out.
And I think that's one of the issues is how much time should you spend out doing outside the library doing word of mouth marketing versus inside, and the delicate balance there.
I think that's a huge issue, and let me say something. I'd love to hear from the people on this call, though. A lot of times one of the challenges in a small library is if you as director or marketing person are out of the building a quarter or half your time, the staff that's in-house might feel resentful or not know what you're up to, and that can lead to internal difficulties, and it's a good idea to scotch those before they start. And every time you come back from an effort, say, I spoke to 200 people at the school, or I spoke to 10 people at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon, and here's what I told them about the library, and you might expect to see them coming in, so that people understand that it's real work. That's one comment I have. Another that I have is that it's time very well spent to be out in the community. How to do it balancing the absolute necessities of running a good, smooth, fine library can be very difficult, and I acknowledge that. Does anybody have any insights about this particular challenge? typey fingers. You're keeping your staff informed all the time of everything that's going on. I think I probably said that till you're all sick of hearing me say it on the videos.
And then the other thing too would be, give the staff, the ones that are comfortable with it, the chance to get out. So
Right.
it's not only the same person all the time.
Sandy, that's brilliant, and again, it makes it not a big privileged thing. It's something we all do, and it's equally valued with the other things that we do. Builds that culture again.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be like go out and give a speech, because I know
No.
it's the connections and the more of the one-to-one kind of thing, because people are scared of giving speeches. Many are.
Yeah. Apparently, many are more scared of giving speeches than of dying. One of the later studies, there have been studies that report that.
And
I used to be that way.
Look at different venues that you already have in town. I know one of the towns I came from, we had a remote control airplane airport, and it was really cool. Every so often would take a table out there with a tent and grab all the books we have on building your own remote control aircrafts, and we would check out the books directly to people right there.
Oh, I love that, especially that particular subject. Then you could get into the ethics of drone surveillance.
Exactly. We did get into that. It was fun.
It leads to everything, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you don't necessarily have to be, talking each time, or it can be something semi-informal like that.
Sure. And I think it's useful, not ad nauseum, but it's useful to remind staff and friends and those champions that to mention the library in their daily life is really just fine. I work at the library. And then if someone asks, they can talk about it. Pop-up libraries. Sarah, parks, retirement centers, the local mall. How have Sarah, I'm still there with your pop-up libraries. This is something I've been hearing quite a lot about lately all over the country. And I'm wondering how it has increased your usage overall. Are you noticing? It sort of touches on the assessment piece.
And Sarah is in Panama City, Bay County.
Yep.
Does she have a microphone?
Yeah, I don't want to put anyone on the spot. I was just curious if you have
Sarah,
measured.
you need to click on the little microphone icon next to your name. It's been muted. You look like you muted yourself. If you are able to talk or want to.
And she says she's still assessing. Okay, I won't put you on the spot. I think that's a really interesting, it's a good way to assess. You might say how many new library cards you're issuing, or pick a measure and see how it changes the more effort you put into that pop-up library effort. Also, I think pop-up libraries must be fun to do.
Again, I think it's sort of funny in the sense of the branding, the pop-up, because what Brendan was talking about to me would be like a pop-up library.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's just that,
yeah,
it would, it's the language that folks are using versus the strategies have been used for years at different times.
There's nothing much new here. There's some of the delivery methods are new, but all in all, communicating has been roughly the same since we sat around fires roasting the latest kill and telling stories. Really, the way we communicate with each other as humans hasn't changed so much. So let's talk a little about the that assessment piece, the indicator idea. And I know a lot of people, as I said, I think in the videos, either get bored or a little anxious when they hear about assessment or measurement. And I can understand that. It's lately, in the last 10 or 15 years, I think it's been elevated inaccurately to being some special, difficult thing. when in fact it's pretty basic, and it's just like what Sandy said before about a pop-up library. It's something we've been doing all along. We've been counting things that indicate increases or decreases or changes in the way people are using us. And the assessment of a marketing effort piece is simply you set a target, you set the thing you want to increase, and then pick an indicator, one of those measures that might show you how you're doing, and track it. And I'm wondering if any of you have done that specifically with marketing efforts. I know you've had to encounter it during strategic planning kinds of measurements. What are your assessment challenges or problems or cool things?
Yeah, I guess the assessment isn't as cool as doing a snazzy program or kind of thing. It's sort of a behind the scenes thing. And another issue with that is that libraries are good at counting but not collecting stories. That's true. That's been one of our weaknesses, and yet stories are really the cool stuff.
Well, I'll tell you, assessment's not cool. Sandy, thank you. That you just made me think of a way to look at this. Assessment isn't much fun until you're sitting in a county commission meeting and saying, I can tell you that our circulation has increased by 20% this year, even though the population has remained level. So it's very clear that we are providing value to your constituents, county commissioners. Or if you can say more than 3,000 people have registered for our online classes this year as opposed to 10 last year, and we're delivering very big value in educational services to the people of this county or whatever. So hard numbers make a big impact on people who hold purse strings. But I've always said, just as a sort of quick formula, 2 stories for a number. If you sit and just relay 10 numbers about increases in percentages and yada yada, everyone starts to glaze over. But if you can say our online class registration has increased by 10%, that's 400 people, and let me tell you about one of them, then you've got the number and you've got the story. So you've got data. And a lot of legislators and commissioners and people with purse strings in general will say, just show me the data, show me what the impact is numerically. But they really mean, show me some data, but also tell me the impact in terms of a human story. So mix them. 2 to 1, I think, is a good mix, but it depends on your audience.
Now, I would also say make sure at the same time, when you did your marketing plan, you looked at what their goals were. Make sure you connect your data and your story with one of their goals.
Right. I see that we have a major initiative on workforce development or economic development in this county. Let me tell you how the library has contributed to that. Here's 2 numbers and 3 stories. You know, like that's a very simple approach. And that can make assessment more fun once you've done that once or twice. It's a little bit like fundraising, which everyone says they hate until they score their first big contribution.
And it looks like Sarah's got a comment. She says she's new to her position and finding it challenging to keep up with all the venues, paper, virtual, plugging into all the sites that share calendars. How do others check which venue works best, and how have you done surveys?
Very good questions. I'm interested too.
Elizabeth says some of our assessment has been tracking the number of people in our classes. When a new class is full, we feel like we've done our job.
The issue that Sarah brings up is very important, which is bang for the buck. I think many of you have heard the 80-20 rule, that runs along the lines of 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. So maybe one method of marketing is bringing the greatest results, and all those flyers are not, and you might want to look at the effort. But to parse that and figure out what is working is a challenge. Before you start throwing the baby in the bathwater all out, it's a good idea to really figure out what is bringing people in. How does anybody do that?
Pam's got one suggestion. She uses Constant Contact to do surveys and track the clicks to their links. This goes to Facebook.
That's neat. How's that working, Pam? Pretty well, huh?
And
so let's
I want to jump in. I know Adenia is actually typing, but I also think she has in the past had a microphone. You want to give your comment out loud, Adenia?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
sure can. Thank you, Adenia.
Oh, okay. Okay. We actually are trying to do surveys even if it's orally, but it really works well when we have sessions so that we can take back information. We're not being able to do anything on the website right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I do share it in casual conversation and in our Facebook posts just to get the message out there.
That's great. Program comment cards, Josephine mentions, and you ask how people heard about it. Do you have any results from that, Josephine? Again, not to put you on the spot, I'm just curious if you have a sense of how people mostly are hearing about things. Program comment cards, good idea in general. I also recommend a suggestion box, very old-fashioned. You can have a virtual one on your website, and you can have an actual 1 or 5 in the library saying, please tell us what you think. And at the same time, you can say, why were you here today, or how often do you come? You can develop some other information on the suggestion box forms.
And Adenia, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Thanks, Joe.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Well, you know what? I'll say this. We have a problem in getting our word out. We only use the city's methods, and other than Facebook and Instagram, and it's a challenge because the community is pretty disconnected. Like the city just had a free concert, and maybe there were 30 people there.
Oh, wow.
So it's, yes, to bring a band in and hardly anybody show. We're doing a big effort right now because we're celebrating our 90th, and hopefully this will teach us something, and that this is the first time they're using media, radio stations and things like that. I use radio stations as a public service. There's a Haitian station that does talk about our program sometimes.
That's good. Melissa, can you hold on that slide? By the way, I didn't mean to interrupt. Adenia, it sounds as though also you have been kind of instinctively using word of mouth.
Yes.
That you talk about the library wherever you are,
Yeah.
and bring back information.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And I try to make it exciting when I have a story to tell. It's like, oh, you wouldn't believe what happened. And
Oh, that's great.
I think it helps to have a friendship established. with some of the folks that are leading in the community, because it gives you an opportunity to share little nuggets without them realizing
Exactly.
that they're looking at our services.
I think that's terrific. Has anybody tried a systematic way of staying in touch with your funders? I know one library in another state who would once a week send a Twitter-length message by email to the county commissioners. Just a very short, happy story about the library, like, oh, here's what your funding, here's what our budget got us. 20 new card holders this week. End of story. Or another little story, oh, we had people who moved here and they chose this county over another because of the quality of the library. Congratulations, commissioners. Very, very short, once a week, happy stories. And that can, they may roll their eyes when they see it in their email box, but in fact, it makes a real point. Connection with local government, Margaret, saying the same thing. I knew another library that was about a year before starting a capital campaign for a new building. There were people, friends of the library, with library t-shirts and hats on, about 4 to 10 of them, sitting in the front row of every county commission meeting for a year. Just to, you know, remind them the library's there and voters care about it.
Yeah.
These are ambassador-y kinds of small things, but they're big things with big impact.
If I could go back for just a second, when we're talking about the comment card boxes and those kind of boxes, keep in mind these don't have to just be plain boxes. You can decorate them and do kind of cute things with them. I have worked with the library where in the children's area, our survey box looked like a little monster, and he had a name tag called Curiosity, and all of the comment cards looked like cookies. And so we would ask people to feed the curiosity.
Cool.
Oh, I like that.
And it encouraged, like the kids would notice, they would be excited to feed it, and the parents would find themselves filling out these survey cards more than they thought they ever would. And we were actually getting real feedback.
That's neat. I'm seeing some people have, Darlene mentions challenging getting the word out in lower income neighborhoods. Does anybody have any suggestions there?
It's laundromat.
This is Nancy. I was just going to comment that I know at the main branch where Sarah works, during Library Card Month, September, they had an interactive whiteboard with the teaser, I like the library because, and people could add comments there. And they collected quite a few interesting bits of feedback.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
The other thing,
lower income neighborhoods? Oh, go ahead.
Depending on the format of your lower income neighborhoods, if you've got large apartment centers, you can do programs called Story Time on a Stoop and talk with the apartment center and see if they'll let you use their stoop outside their building, and you can host a story time right there. It gets them involved and noticing that you care. So that's another great opportunity for a pop-up library.
And that's a great idea, Brendan. And another thought I have, more general thought about lower income neighborhoods, maybe all neighborhoods, but maybe in particular, this is a case of marketing benefits and not a list of your stuff. A lot of lower income people are tired. They're working several jobs to hold it together. Maybe they're single parents. They're concerned about their kids' success in school and safety and a whole lot of things. Think about ways in which the library can meet some needs and make their lives a little easier, rather than presenting the library as one more thing to do because it's good for you, or it's other, you know. And a story time on the stoop is not a half bad idea for exactly that. It's a good idea. You're demonstrating how the kids can get enthused, and then you can, you know, gently talk to parents as the opportunity arises about school success related to reading and all the things that we know and love. But the key is to really look at how you can discuss the ways the library really will benefit people, not in a condescending way, but in a way that honors the fact that these are incredibly busy, kind of stressed people. On the whole, I don't mean to paint a broad, there's no broad brush, but there are brushes. Yeah, daycare centers, schools, and churches are good places to get into communities. That's absolutely true. I would visit pastors, any child care people. You all have a lot of good ideas, and it's clear you've been doing things. I'd like to move. We have still 20 minutes, but I'd like to look at the top 10 marketing tips. And I'm wondering, as you were listening to these or reading through them, if anything struck you as especially interesting or important or that you hadn't thought of before, or if there's something that isn't on here that you would have added. Let me come back to Margaret's question about going to churches. Sandy, can you respond to that? Margaret is assuming we can't go to churches as we're a government entity.
No, yeah, it doesn't really have anything to do it. That's just another location. And so that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, obviously, local governments may have their own guidelines on what you can do and not do, and so you may need to double check with that. But I've never really heard at all that there was any kind of problem with going to a church.
Or to a pastor group, you know, that meets, like the Ecumenical Council and places.
Right, that would, I mean, I've had deposit collections in churches, you know, across North Florida while out working there, and the pastor association would be a good one. Where I would be careful about is favoring one denomination over another.
Right, or having a one church group in your library doing something. Right,
Yeah,
that's different from...
Well, although the interesting thing with the church group in the library is that if you make your meeting room available, you have to make it available to everyone and not say you're a church group, you can't have your meeting in the library. So that is another side of the coin that is out there, is basically the free access. You can't favor one. You can't say just because you're a church group you can't have a religious service in the library. Now, what I know libraries do a good amount of is they say they have a policy that unless you are a partner, like a writers club with the library, you cannot meet at the library regularly. I mean, I know that that's been the policy, but as far as going out, I hadn't heard that, except the balance.
Right.
I mean, you have to be careful that you're balancing out what you're doing and not favoring one group over another.
Right.
Let's see, Char says she likes number 4.
Right. And Josephine, marketing is daily, hourly task, every encounter with a patron. That's a little bit related to number 2. It's a team sport that everyone in the staff has a marketing function of one kind or another. I have one more question, and then we can go to assessment of the course a little bit. But I just want to know if anyone has any burning questions about something they've been concerned about in marketing their library that hasn't been touched on or addressed either in the formal course part or in these chats with each other.
how to decide how much time to allot to something like this, because it can be consuming if you're doing posters and flyers and outreach and Facebook and Instagram. How do you decide what's a reasonable amount of time?
And that is a great question. Does anybody have anything to say about that? Josephine agrees it's a great question. There's no formula. Now, as you know, some libraries have whole marketing staff or one or more people doing this work, large systems in particular. Many libraries, the library director ends up doing it by default. So to say you should spend a quarter of your time on marketing, it's difficult to say that. What I will say is I think it's important not to undertake every new thing at once. You might sit down and really look at what you're now doing and make a list, kind of systematically say, okay, we're now doing posters for every event and flyers for this, and here's how much time it's taking. And assess whether you want to keep doing that or introduce something new. And I also, on that regard, I would recommend introducing new things one at a time and watching results. So if you're going to go social media and you haven't done before, start with, say, your Facebook page. Do a Facebook page, do it really well, involve the staff, figure out what's hard about it, what, oops, isn't so great about it, and track any results. See how many comments you're getting, how much time is it taking. But be deliberative and systematic about introducing new things. That's another point. And the third point on time and proportion of time is that so many of these things have much more to do with attitude than actual time. As Adenia knows instinctively, if you're out there talking in your life and you're talking about the library, you're doing marketing, but it's not a time. It's not specifically this many minutes on marketing issues. If your website is carefully constructed so that it includes places for suggestions or feedback and carefully markets all your programs, is that web development or is that marketing specifically? So some of these marketing slips over into all areas. Good customer service, all of that is a part of marketing. So I really appreciate the question, and it's very hard, and some of the things don't have specific time things you can allot. Some of the things is be systematic and careful. Elizabeth says schedule. Elizabeth has some suggestions here. Scheduling Facebook posts ahead of time and not always checking it, right? And ticking your calendar, Mondays, Facebook, Tuesdays, note to the County Commission. Wednesdays, remind myself and everyone on the staff to talk about the library. Is that at all helpful? Yes. All right. As we've been saying, this particular course format has been an experiment. The short presentations, first 3 of them, then a chat, presentation, chat, and then some of you will be getting an hour of my time on a particular marketing challenge or problem for your library. I am curious about the format. What did you like about it, if anything in particular? What was strong? And what would you suggest for changes for the next time? I already have one good suggestion that I've tucked away, which I will share with you after I hear from you all.
This is Melissa. When we close the session, you guys will get sent a survey. If you could fill that out, that would be awesome. That you can give your feedback there too.
Cindy likes the work for the videos can be worked in kind of any old time. Did you like that they were short, or did you listen to all 3 at once? Was it a good idea to break them up like that, or would a half hour been? Short was good, okay. All staff can certainly watch them, right, Sandy?
I was just muted. But we'll pull everything together. But yes, they're going to be out there, and that's what's cool about this is the fact that we do have the, we have the PowerPoints that we'll be putting up. We actually will be pointing to the recordings, and so they'll continue to be available. And it could be something that you could ask your staff to watch 1 10-minute of it, and then at your next staff meeting or your virtual meeting or your communications with your staff, you could talk about what does that mean. So you could sort of use the same framework but do it. Have them
apply it. How would you apply this? Yeah,
yeah.
Because they're necessarily rather general. I mean, they're not specific to a particular library. And someone just flew by in the comments. Someone said it helps to share them. I once, years ago, saw a statistic that we remember 10% of the things we read, 30% of the things we read and write about, and 90% of the things we read and then talk about. So conversation about a subject will enhance everyone's learning. So involving your staff, if you could sit down with these videos or any other tool and talk to your staff, it'd be great. Josephine, I would love to come and visit. I'm fond of Florida libraries. I feel a real affection, and it would be a blast. Maybe I'll have to plan a winter vacation that would help piggyback and visit some libraries at the same time.
And this is Melissa. We'll make sure that in the follow-up message that we do for the session that we can include PDFs of the slides. We just had a request for that.
Yep, that'd be great.
Or actually what I'm probably going to do is put them up on the website because they've been approved and I've already touched base with Kim. I just need to tell her where to put them, which they could go with the announcement where that is at this point. Because I know sometimes people, the PDF thing, although these I think are short enough, but sometimes people's systems won't accept attachments.
Mm-hmm.
And the handout that Linda mentions, this was the suggestion I got, which was from Brendan, who understands various learning methods, which is to create worksheets and assignments for each section. So if I get to do this again, I will do that, a simple worksheet to get people using the material for each section. I also recommend the resource list. There's some really amazing resources. I've just touched, it's difficult to winnow down all the marketing material out there in the world to the things that I think are really especially important. And you'll read, if you read about marketing libraries and marketing in general, you'll see other people have different approaches. The chat log should be available to everybody.
Right, yeah, we'll have to pull all that together and sort of package it with that. So I want to make sure that folks put into chat or either speak up some of these other things that you plan to apply. I know you've actually been putting some of that into chat already, some of the concepts that you want to apply. And we'd love to have you share on our Facebook page any things that you're doing. Pictures, comments, etc. I just sent a post that'll be going up at some point about doing karaoke. That was in the public libraries with the Public Library Association, that a library actually just, you can reserve the room and borrow the karaoke and go in and do karaoke. Or another library checks out the karaoke machine. You could take home and do it in your own home. So you're the only one that has to listen to you.
Whoa.
Yeah, I just thought that was sort of interesting. But I would love to have people contribute to Facebook and continue the conversation.
Yeah, and I would reiterate that. I hope you'll all be in touch with each other, because the specific suggestions can be just so important. You go, wow, I never thought of that, but that seems simple and doable. Stoop story time comes to mind right for this moment.
Yep.
Is anybody surprised by any of the material, either in the videos or in the chat? Just, oh my goodness, that surprises me. What's that? On heavens.
This is Nancy. I wouldn't say it was a surprise, but it was certainly a good reminder to make sure that when sharing things, to put the emphasis on the benefits of how it will help the patrons, not just we do this and we do this, not just cheerleading, but more how it would impact them.
Good. Yeah, that is so important. And it's so easy for us to get so proud of everything we offer that you just want to tell everybody everything. When in fact that won't excite them. Yeah.
And Pam, you've got your hand up. Go ahead. No, Pam, looks like you're not muted. You should be able to talk.
Okay, how's that?
Yep.
The book Building Buzz, who is the author on that?
Peggy Barber.
Okay, thank you.
Wallace, and she was the public relations officer for the American Library Association for years. And she's one of the gurus of library marketing and public relations, and she's practical and smart. That book and the Library Marketing Toolkit are the two. If you're going to get books, those are the. If you just had those and read them and did what they said, you'd be marketing geniuses. That's an exaggeration, but they're really very, very good and quite accessible.
Thank you.
Not all full of theory, yeah.
Thank you.
And Margaret was saying that one thing she's noticed is people give a lot of attention when the library staff are wearing swag, so like t-shirts, buttons, and etc. Oh, that came from Nicole. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, hats, aprons, tote bags, the eternal tote bag.
You can also go with a cliche and do a really cool cardigan.
Oh, yeah. Glasses?
Oh, those would be fun.
Wouldn't they? I had, when I was years ago, I had a library stick pin that I wore in my jacket lapel. You know the way a lot of people wear their club pins? I had one Republican friend who said, now if you want to talk to white men wear pins. What he meant was the American flag in the lapel or that kind of size pin. And it's true, you see them on lots of people. And I had one that just said library. And I always wore it. And people commented on it. And I always thought it was a very quiet, effective way of saying library. I've always said, Sandy knows, she's sick of hearing me say this, but I honestly do think if you all said library 3 times a day as you walk through your normal life, it would help. Just use a grammatical sentence every place and say it, talk about it. Edenia, goodbye, have fun, good luck with the 90th.
Bye-bye, thanks.
And Josephine says, do you think fish strategies work in libraries? Do patrons respond to staff having fun, or are they put off by it?
Tell me what a fish strategy is specifically, and I can maybe answer. Or does...
Is that the Seattle, or there's a book about?
Oh, right.
Yeah, there was the book.
I know.
I can't remember what.
Josephine says it started in Seattle with a fish market.
Right. Yes, I know what you're talking about. I think seeing library staff having fun is very engaging if they're inviting others to join them in the fun. If it's an in-group crowd doing something only they can do as a performance, I think it could be barrier building. So in other words, I'm of two minds, and it's a subtle difference.
Margaret was saying that, or Nicole was saying, our patrons tend to get more into the celebration if the staff leads the way, and that they have costume days and really fun events where they get totally involved. And apparently their patrons are responding to it.
Yep. Yeah, it's fun if it's kind of join us in this thing we're doing because it's so much fun.
One of the other great ways to do this is if you guys haven't heard of book faces. That's where you find a book with a face on it and you try and line it up with your own body and take an image of it. Have it replace your face or augment it in some form or fashion. And that is a really fun challenge to send out to the community is what face will you find? And let them go.
Would you post that on Facebook, some examples of that?
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, we're noticing how much our patrons love costumes. We just had a pirate day, staff and patrons dressed up. And I'm assuming that's for Talk Like a Pirate Day. That's everybody's favorite. And they get a lot of questions about when they're doing their next special day.
Yeah, good. Yes, Talk Like a Pirate Day. Arr.
And there is a fun day called Lost Sock Day. It is a Memorial Day. It is kind of fun. One of the ways that we celebrated it one year was to have a random sock somewhere on your outfit. So, just as it said on there, like rest in peace or missing, those kind of things. And so people throughout the day would ask you, why do you have a sock on your back? Or like, why is that sticking out of your pocket? And that was just a fun way, and we found community members would run home and grab a sock just so they could celebrate.
I like it. All of these kind of we're celebrating, come join us things are taking a slightly larger view here, are a great way to turn people up a level in their involvement. In other words, you've already got people who are using the library. You're going to turn them into clients they'll participate in a library event instead of just watch it. So it's a great way to up the involvement of people. Dress as your favorite character is wonderful.
And Nicole says anytime Harry Potter's involved, people get super excited.
Yeah. And there will be more Harry Potters over time.
Margaret says that she was a Hufflepuff House student.
Yes, and I like see how the tone and even this conversation changes. We're all smiling, we're all kind of laughing. It's light. And as you keep trying to involve staff more and more and friends more and more and patrons more and more, staying funny and light or having a funny and light touch is really helpful. It's not my strong suit, but some of these are really good suggestions for how to do it. And I have a feeling as you get to know Brandon, he's pretty new still, but as you get to know him, he's going to just come up with a jillion ideas for you to try out in this area. We're nearly out of time. I think it's coming to the point where we want you to type in or talk in what specific things you plan to apply, and I think we have a sense of what you liked about the class and what could be improved, but any additional ideas there we'd like to record and get down, because if we're planning some of this in the future, it'll be very helpful.
Yep.
And I would like to say what a pleasure it has been to get to know everybody in a tiny little way. This project has been interesting for me and a lot of fun. So thanks to all of you.
And thank you, Lawrence. I guess it's interesting to me that for online stuff, we don't go. I know that they've some of these WebEx I think had you can do it sort of virtually, but to me that doesn't have the same satisfaction.
Margaret's got it down here. That's same to you.
But appreciate it very much. So people just put in your comments, what you plan to apply, specific suggestions for improvement, how we can make the discussion more interactive, or maybe are there other venues or ways we could be doing things.
Right.
All suggestions will be welcome.
And don't be shy. Yeah, negative suggestions, as I pointed out earlier in one of the slides, are very, very useful. Negative comments also will help us a lot, so not to worry. Thanks. You guys are great.
So we'll stay on in the sense of for folks to be able to type in their thoughts and suggestions. I guess the informal part of our discussion is officially over.
And thanks to everyone for being on. And we will see you again online soon, hopefully.
Worksheet and homework, yeah.
Josephine, thank you for that suggestion with the worksheet and homework. We will certainly focus on that. Have a good day.
And for those of you that are still on, we'll give you a few minutes to finish typing before we end the session.